At this stage in a build, it's all about keeping your focus on where you are, without letting your mind get too wrapped in the original rendering. Sound easy enough? Maybe. But the Cuda on paper is a screaming dream that's hard to tear away from.
It's been about a week since our shopping trip at Goodmark. That means Paul and his team have had a week to play with some of the parts. I wonder if they've modified anything yet. My bet? Probably.
We got the front fenders, the front valance, and all the other sheet metal parts that Goodmark has supplied us with, including the trunk pan.
Well, you've had a lot of stuff happen back here.
Yeah, we've done a lot of cleanup since taking the quarters off rough. Our job is to be able to use this vehicle to test fit their parts and give them the feedback that they're looking for in the field from a professional point of view. We wanted to clean off any of the extra metal that we weren't going to use. It's all rusty and kind of bad down low, so we wanted to get all that stuff off and get some fresh metal that we can weld to.
Sending information back to the team at Goodmark is part of the reason Paul was chosen for this build. Years of experience won't just build a car, it'll help provide vital feedback to the manufacturer.
We removed that metal out of the way to allow for clean attachment points and welding to stitch up the back of the car. It takes a lot of time to fit metal on the car and make sure everything's done correctly. Average time to build a car nowadays is anywhere from 1,500 hours up to 3,500 hours or more. So there's a lot of steps involved that you have to do with these parts to make sure everything goes together. So our job is to make sure that before it goes to bodywork, that all the panels fit and all the gaps are closed so that everything looks clean.
Not everything going on comes out of a box. Improvisation is part of the process.
Well, typically it'll depend on the size of the hole. If it's bigger than like a 1/4 inch, you're probably going to get a plug and cut out like a circle to insert into there and then weld it in. Usually if it's smaller than that, a lot of times you can get just like a piece of aluminum, put it behind, and then when you hit it with a welder, it'll just fill up the hole.
Well, so far there was, all these were holes right here, about 1/4 inch holes.
Yeah.
And then right here was a couple of big, about 1/2 inch holes.
The bigger the hole, the bigger the panel.
You remember this?
This thing, yes.
That's a part that is not made. This is why we wanted to save it.
Okay.
But we do have some issues at the base here. You can see we have
Got a lot of cancer.
a lot of cancer here. So what we're going to do is that we're going to straighten the flange out, and we're going to fill these holes. And we're going to cut this off right here.
Right.
And we're going to make a new angled filler piece.
After all that shaping and pounding, I needed a break.
Okay, so here's our break.
Okay.
I was actually hoping Paul meant the kind of break that involved coffee, not metal.
Okay, and here are our pieces.
The luxury of a spot welder is not something most shops have. Plus, getting one into a tight area isn't always possible. So small holes are punched into the pieces and filled with weld. Same result, less time.
So that's not completely finished yet.
No, we'll go back and finish welding when we stitch in the other panels on the floor. We'll go over all this stuff. We're trying to get the car locked down and move forward.
Okay, you were saying something about you want to do something on the bumper today, too,
We'll have
right?
to do some of the bumpers. Before we do that, we'll have to put quarters on the car.
Bringing in the big metal doesn't mean we're about to close off work in the rear. Seeing how the rear quarter aligns just makes sure that we're going in the right direction.
We worked on a tire fit today for the first time, looking at the sizing and the placement of the wheel and the wheel well, and we discovered that the wheel offset that I want to run is going to be closer to the outside of the body.
A skinny rear tire isn't going to cut it for an 800-horse Cuda.
We used a plasma cutter to cut the tubs, the outboard wheelhouse, away to make room for a check fit on the tire against the outer fender lip. We're trying to move the tire and wheel combination about 1.25 inches further out than it would be originally, so that when you look at the side of the car, the profile of the car, that the wheel is not too far in on the wheel well. It just looks better when it's out towards the lip. The crown of the bumper was wrong. It had too much gap away from the body on the passenger side. So I took the bumper and removed it from the car, Dan and I did, and struck it on the floor to bend it, to get it to take the shape that I want.
This is when high-tech tools and materials stay on the shelf.
That's caveman fabrication. Sometimes you have to use a little force to get the bumper or the metal to move around, and just a flat spot on the floor and a wood block usually does the trick. When we put the valance up, we discovered that the gap between the bumper and the valance was too great, and we needed to make an extension or a filler panel for that.
Maybe this shouldn't be here? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yep, shouldn't be there. Nope. Once we received the K-member from Bill Riley Motorsports, we wanted to make sure that everything would fit in the car, so we put the K-member up to the car and put the engine in to check for preliminary fit.
There's no muscle in this motor, but for measuring, it's perfect.
We're gonna get the blower to come from Ray Barton.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be able to have that before we get the motor and look at a hole in the hood and other stuff.
Shaker hood.